I'm going to talk about something that's very much on my mind, and that is stress. The highest stress in your life, and I'll tell you why. I'm going out of my mind with stress. I'm in the midst of arranging to move across the country, either on Friday or Saturday. I've got to move a number of people, a number of poodles, a number of a number of weapons, and I'm going out of my mind. From 1 minute to the next, I'm waking up 3 in the morning. Now, don't forget this, and don't forget that, and don't forget to do this with your boat. Don't to turn off the Seacock. Call up the mechanic, make sure he comes down and do the... What about your car? Do you need a trickle charger? You're not going to be back for 4-6 weeks. Make sure that you get the trickle charger. Oh, yes, lock the door, bolt the gate, put on the alarm. Oh, yes, don't forget to pick the vegetables out of the garden and make sure they come in a cooler. You don't want to throw away organic vegetables. And by the way, did you tell the gardener to turn the water on after the rainstorm because the sun is coming? Did you tell the gardener that? Yes, did you tell? I mean, it's unbelievable to me. So I looked up the Holmes and Ray stress scale, which is a list of stressful life events that can contribute to illness. And the number one item on a stress scale that can contribute to illness is the death of a spouse. And it's listed by number of life change units. The highest stress you can have in your life, they say, is the death of a spouse. The next highest stress is divorce. The third highest stress is marital separation. And here it comes. The fourth highest stress is imprisonment, which of course applies to over 1 million Americans. We have more Americans in prison proportionate to the population. We have the highest number of people in prison of any nation on earth, which means we are a police state, which means the drug war failed, which means the drug war needs to end, which means that although marijuana is a toxic, dangerous gateway drug, we need to decriminalize, not legalize marijuana. There's a big difference between decriminalizing and legalizing, which I'll talk about at another time. The fifth highest contributor to illness in terms of stress on the Holmes and Ray stress scale, remember, number 1 is the death of a spouse. Number 2 is divorce. Number 3 is marital separation. Number 4 is imprisonment. Number 5 is death of a close family member. Number 6, personal injury or illness. Next, marriage, dismissal from work. Listen to this one. Marital reconciliation is in the top 10. In other words, it's not bad enough you have a stress from breaking up. It gets worse when you get back together. Or not as worse, but it's another stress. Retirement in the top 10. What other stresses have you experienced in your life that have affected your illness? If you had to rank the worst stresses in your life, what were they? Do you know that on this list, change in residence is number 20? Okay, so thank God I'm on number 20. I'm changing residence right now. I'm moving across the country. Whether it's temporary or permanent is another story, but I'm moving. I have never been through such madness in my adult years. I mean, I've moved before. When I was younger, I moved all the time. It was like the grapes of wrath. In order to get a job, I have moving trucks and packing and this and that. It's never been as complicated as now because I'm building a new studio by telephone across the country. Go try to build a radio studio that should be waiting for you in a house that you have acquired in another state. Go try to do that. And luckily, I have some good engineers and good people out there with the equipment ordered 6 weeks ago. But it's astounding to me how complicated this really is. One beautiful part about all of this is that because of the internet and because people can use iPhones to take pictures in the house while talking to me, they're emailing me pictures of various rooms and how the desk is, and I'm saying, put the computer here, I want the wires to go there, can't you cut a hole in that cabinet here? This is beautiful. In the past, obviously, we couldn't do it. There's so many advantages to modern technology. I would say that's one of them, and it certainly reduces stress. Nevertheless, it's trying to balance the moving. It's a tremendous phenomenon for me right now, and it's driving me crazy. For example, first I was going to go Saturday. Then because of logistics reasons, I had to go Friday. Then the guy says to me, well, if you can't go Friday at a certain time, you have to go Thursday. I'm going on somebody's private aircraft, so there's a lot of logistics involved. The pilots have to get into this place that I'm going to 14 hours before they get to the next place. FAA rules, they can't fly if it's 14 and a half hours, 13 and a half hours. So I got to leave in the time in the morning when there's a rush hour from Oakland, California, which I don't want to do because I hate driving in traffic. What's the point of going altogether? And so I'm calling and saying, okay, cancel Friday, let's go Saturday. Take me off the Gulfstream and put me on a citation. I don't want to be on a citation, put me on a this. So then I'm making decisions that could cost me my life, and I don't even know what plane I'm on. And so you think that there's no stress, you're crazy. That's why I'm saying to you, I want to talk about stress. What is the greatest stress you've had in your life? Is it losing your job? Is it losing your 401k? Is it listening to Rush Limbaugh at a conservative convention not saying borders, language, or culture? Is it listening to another swarmy little would-be Hollywoodie standing up there pretending that she's against Hollywoodies when her only dream is to be a Hollywoodie or date Hollywoodies? What is the greatest stress you've had in recent times? You know, things are so bad in terms of stress level that I did something Friday after the show that I haven't done in years. I never go to the movies. I don't like the coughing. I don't like the perfume. I don't like the heads in front of me. I don't like guys kicking me from behind. In other words, I'm a very edgy personality. I don't like movie theaters. I hate them. So I'd rather watch a movie at home. I could be talking about CPAC or Obama, and I will. But, you know, I know that everyone listening to this show is not turning it off. You can't wait to hear what the other guy or woman has to tell you, because in your own heart, you know you'd like to call the show and tell us what it is that almost broke you down or did freak you out. I have a caller right now who's going to come on the show in a minute with a stress that is not even on the Holmes and Ray stress scale that I can imagine should be on there. But it just shows you how spoiled we are in America. Robert in San Diego, go ahead, please. What was the stress that you would say affected you the most that is not on that list?
All the ones you said, you know, they're all stressful, but the one I found the hardest, Dr. Savage, was coming back from combat and actually getting back, just being, you know, in that situation, just coming back and being just a civilian and getting back into the normal daily routine of going to work, and just that, for me, was extremely
And you came back from where? From which theater of operation?
From Iraq, sir.
And that obviously is a big adjustment. I mean, but what about a cop shooting somebody in the midst of a crime? That becomes a major league because they start questioning the cop whether he should be thrown in jail or not for doing his job. If the cop ran away for a hydration break, like most of the people they're hiring now conveniently get sick when there's a fire, they can't even lift a ladder, if you know what I'm talking about. If the cop ran away, it's not a stress. But if he stands up there and fights with the bad guy and shoots him, how about that for a stress, Robert?
I absolutely agree, Dr. Savage.
Thank you. Okay. Well, there it is. We're getting down to brass tacks here. Lynn in Palm Beach is next up. Welcome to the call, to the show, Lynn. What's on your mind?
Mr. Savage, there's a daily stress level that I have at 6:10 p.m. when I turn on my radio, and your voice is not there. The number two is dealing with incompetence. You hire a painting company and that you've dealt with for years, and you have to babysit every second because the minute you turn your back, they tell you everything's covered. You walk in and there's two.
Yeah, no, I know that. I just had that with contractors. I'm so fed up. I said, cover my steps, and I come in and the steps are marked with black, dirty boots.
You said every minute.
No, you have to stand over them, or they're not even going to show up on the job altogether. Contractors love to book you, tear your house open and go start another job and leave you ripped open. I would like to sue them for the next time this happens. I'm getting so pissed off at contractors that the next time I see this happen, I will sue them. What you got to do is put a time clause in there. You finish this job in a certain amount of time. You know, here where I live in the Bay Area of California, you've got the worst rip-off artists in America. They start jobs. It takes them 2 years to do a little stinking job in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. Why? Because the people are sheeple. They don't stand up to them. They built the Golden Gate Bridge in less time than it takes to rebuild a house over here in this county. They open up 12 houses and come around when they want. I'm sick of this. It's one of the reasons I'm leaving the state. Here's a sad one. Houston, Texas. Steve, go ahead. You're on the Savage Nation.
Yeah, Michael, sorry, I tuned in a bit late. I didn't hear where you, who developed that listing of stresses that could cause illness.
The highest, I was reading this from the Holmes and Ray stress scale of 43 stressful life events that can contribute to illness. They say the number one is death of a spouse. Then divorce is 2, and marital separation is 3, imprisonment is 4. What would you rank the highest?
I bet a loss of a child would be absolutely second to none. I mean, that happened to me. I did hear that down the list, but it should be like first. I
agree with you. I don't know why it's so far down the list. I certainly think that the death of a child is higher than the death of a spouse, Steve.
Yeah, it's very tough, but I mean, like your situation, deciding what pictures to take across the country, like in 100 years, that won't matter to really any of us, but a loss of a child, that's really tough. And in my case, it was my stepchild. My wife's son was killed construction accident, and it just it takes an extreme toll.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just.
I hear you. No, I'm glad you called in, and I think that the list should be altered. Frankly, I think that the loss of a child has always seemed to me to be the highest stress. But I guess you have to be married and have children to understand that. And I guess some of the psychologists who create this are not married with children. That's a pregnant statement. I think most of them aren't married with children. I would think that most of them have partners, about 5 a night, if you get the drift.